Are we alive?
That's what they tell me. He just said one.
Hello,
I think that means we're here.
I'm Kevin with Springfield Leather. You know Liz.
It's me again.
Denny's gone, so we had to call in the B team today, which is me. And I thought we would show you how to carve a horse head. For those of you that may not know, when I started doing leather work, I was always fascinated with the really cool pictures that everybody was doing at that time in leather. And so I decided I wanted to learn to do that too. So I did. And I've always enjoyed that part. But today, it's not so popular as it was back then. But there's still pretty good demand for leather pictures and that sort of artwork, which you always see at the various federation shows and places like Sheridan. Man, they do some really cool stuff. Mine's not going to be quite that cool, but it's going to be nice. Here's what we're going to try to do. You see it? It's a happy little horse head, and it's not complicated. And for what it's worth, the pattern comes out of an old Tandy book called How to Carve Leather. But I'm going to do it.
Not very little.
It's not. It's a huge book.
Okay, so it's a big book. And for what it's worth, I think I have carved every single page in that book. Every single one. So if you want if you want a goal, boy, there's one for you.
Carve all of the pages.
Oh my! Well, Al Stolman did, He did it.
Somebody had.
So I've got an old craft aid, very old, I might say.
You cannot buy this anymore.
Saves me the trouble of tracing. I'm going to get this piece of leather wet. And don't stand too close, Liz. Don't worry, I don't want to get you very wet.
There's another sign over there.
One of the things I learned early on in figure carving is if you want good results, use good leather. And without sounding too repetitive or redundant, for me, that was always Herman Oak. And I've tried all the others. They work fine. But they don't quite work like Herman Oak.
Go this way.
I don't know why you're so nervous around me.
I just don't. I already took a bath today.
Just your swimsuit to work today?
No.
Just because I have a spray bottle. Okay. Soaked it right up, ready to go. Gonna lay my craft aid right on here. This has got a whole bunch of floral stuff all around it, but I don't care about that. I'm just gonna push these lines down into this lovely clay-like piece of leather. And if you know about craft aids, then you know that most of them have solid lines and dotted lines. And probably you're aware that solid lines are cut, dotted lines are not. They're beveled. So there is our pattern. Faster than tracing. Don't know how well you can see it. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, you can see it right there.
Okay, well, I can't. I got stupid glasses, and I gotta have them to see close up, and I can't see far away. It's just, let me tell you, getting old is not for sissies. It's the pits.
That's what my grandma tells me.
Well, you can believe it. Okay, so I stole Denny's swivel knife. Don't tell him. Not that he would mind necessarily. I'm going to sharpen it.
We stole a lot of his tools today too. So
I did, but I pulled some right out of the rack.
Yeah.
Okay, have we got a camera in the right place?
We sure do.
Okay, so I'm going to go through and just cut all these nice solid lines. And practice is a pretty good thing here. Also, don't be afraid to turn your leather around because you're going to have to turn it a lot. And that's okay. I usually cut, maybe half the way through the leather. This is probably a piece of about 6 to 7 ounce, I think. And you can carve on You can do this picture on about any weight that you want. Normally I like to do it on heavier leathers because I like to really get some depth. But as we go along, I'm going to show you how not only you can get some really good depth, but you can also raise it up a little bit. And you really don't have to have special tools or special products that you have to mix up and concoct in one way or another. And you can just do it with normal stuff. Now, I will tell you, okay, we've got all the lines cut with the exception of the eye. With the eye, you kind of want to be a little bit careful because that's where people usually screw up if they're doing figure carving. So much for that.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah, it is quick. Okay, can't see that. Can you see that?
Yeah, but now it's upside down.
Now it's upside down. Forgive my camera ignorance. Okay, we got that cut. So all that's left here is dotted lines, and we're going to bevel. Beveler. And for the most part, there's 3 tools that you really have to have in doing figure carving. An F895, sorry, an F896, 895, and 891. There's a couple other standards that you can add. You'll probably need them, an 890, and a 902, and a 941, but that's okay.
Kevin's got these numbers on lockdown, guys.
Well, I dealt with them so much. This is a big triangular beveler. And I'm just going to start going around. I don't know. How's the picture? You can't see what I'm beveling. So how do I do this?
I can see what you're beveling. Just
You're good.
Okay. I'm hitting it pretty hard. And you probably get a few little chatter marks on the inside of the pattern, the inside of your horse. You might not have to bevel as hard. But on the outside, going around this ear, I want to achieve some depth. So, one thing about leather is that you're basically pushing, if you're doing figure carving, and well, any kind of carving, Sheridan style carving, Western floral, you're pushing leather down around things. You kind of have to think of it that way. Once you get that in your head, it's really a lot easier, especially if you like to do the Sheridan style carving and things like that, because you have all those happy little stems and chicken necks, like Denny calls them, and they have to be right. You have to push them behind things and make it look like things are in front of other things. That's just what you got to do.
Well, that makes the whole 3-dimensional, that really makes what you're doing stand out.
Yeah, it's, for what it's worth, it's opposite from painting. You know, if you're going to paint a picture, you paint the background first, and then you start painting over the top of that, and that's how you create your depth. But with leather, it's different. You do the foreground first, and then you start putting in the things that are in back of that. So, like for instance, if you were doing a picture of a mountain with clouds and trees and a lake and all that, you do your sky first, then you might do the mountain, then you do the trees in front of the mountain. Well, it's just the opposite with leather. You got to do the stuff in the foreground first. Eyes are not what they used to. This is the pattern that I used to do when I was doing leather demonstrations for kids in school. And this is really, I mean, you kind of have to be a little careful, but not terribly. This is a pretty forgiving project. Okay, we're going to take our next smaller size, very same style tool, small beveler, and I'm going to do a little bit of the lines that are remaining. Oh, guy's mouth here. I just don't want as much.
Yeah, you don't need a 1/4 inch of bevel on his mouth.
No. But other than that, most of this is just very, very simple. I want to do inside his nostril here.
Yeah, for those of you that have ever gotten to come into the store, we've got quite a few of Kevin's portraitures of
They're
scenery
pretty old.
hanging.
And I'm going to take
on
an even
retail.
smaller beveler and get around inside the small places. And it doesn't take you very long. Only the biggest thing I can tell you about this is if you try this, your second attempt is going to be a lot better than your first. And that's just how it is. Kind of bevel inside the eyeball, and that is one area where you need to be conscious of the curves. You need to push the leather down a little bit, but everything else later is going to kind of fix any little mistakes that you make or might make right now. Okay, all we have left, is that visible? I can't even see from the,
Yeah, you're good.
I can't see from the, okay. So all we've got left are inside the pattern. We've got those dotted lines. So you may need something to look at. You probably will, unless you're really good. I've got a picture right here. So I can kind of look at that and see where those areas are beveled. If you have a hard time knowing which side of a line to bevel on, don't feel bad. But the way you get around that, this may sound a little funny, you need to stop and think. And that's just it. And I'm going to bevel every single one of these dotted lines. They're not going to be very perfect at all. As a matter of fact, they're kind of going to be a little bit on the rough side. And that's okay. I don't mind. And neither does this horse, because it's just a stupid piece of leather. Okay, let's see here. One of the things that I found most helpful in doing this kind of thing is learning to see things correctly. And it helps, like I say, if you've got a picture to look at it, think, and then look at it again, and think again. And that's when you start trying to achieve your depth on the inside of the pattern. There's kind of a trick to doing some of this, which I'll get to in just a minute. Then we're gonna take this little line here. These little lines here, they don't even matter really as to which side you bevel on. I'll show you why in just a second. Even if you think that you beveled out of whack a little bit, really doesn't. It's what we're going to do here in a little bit. It's going to totally transform this thing, I hope. Yeah.
You guys can let us know.
Yeah, and I know this isn't probably something that everybody and their brother wants to do, but actually it's kind of fun. And I still enjoy doing this stuff. Okay, have we got all the lines done? No, we don't. There's an area where we're going to be careful.
Right under that eye.
Yeah, and you want to look at the pictures because beveling under an eyeball is something where you can really screw it up. Usually that comes with heavy-handedness, which is not all that happy. Okay, that's a lot of it right there. That's just, and it looks pretty horrible, but many times.
Kind to yourself.
Well, this is the way it works. This is how it starts. You got to have faith all the way through to the end. And the whole deal is right here. It's a modeling tool. I grabbed one off the rack and I'm going to use this. I hate it. The one I have at home and use, I've kind of polished it and put it to the shape that I want, and for me, it's better. As far as a mallet goes, this is the one that was handy. Normally, I use one of those silly yellow headed things, yeah, like that.
Like this one.
It doesn't matter to me. Whatever is comfortable for you, that's what's important. So now I'm going to start reworking these bevel marks with this little spoon modeler. And you can really put some pressure on here. And here is the biggest secret to figure carving. The entire surface of your picture, the entire surface has to be gone over with a modeling tool. When you go over this, you are affecting the surface of the leather when it's wet. When the leather is wet, anything that touches it is going to affect the surface. So, people look at finely detailed pictures and artwork. They're pretty cool. And there are some very, very professional artists out there that can do it, that can carve leather without perhaps going over every single square millimeter of leather with a modeling tool. But most don't, especially when you need to show muscle and texture. And that's what this is going to help us do. So you're going to see, as we go along here, a pretty big difference. And you might see me struggling a little bit as I try to smooth things out and go over this. And by the way, you'll want to make sure your hands are clean.
Yeah.
I don't even know if mine are, but we'll find out soon enough.
Kevin, is there a certain moisture content that you feel like the leather should be at once you get to this point?
Moisture content is really, really kind of hard. And I don't mean to be snide in saying this. Am I ever snide?
Never.
Thank you. The moisture content is really a matter of experience and practice. You noticed, I'm sure, if you've been watching this from the beginning. Okay, I need to look at that thing. We've got to put in some kind of careful little marks. The moisture content, it's just got to be right. And
Well,
the only way you do that is to try it.
yeah.
That's just the only way. And without trying to blow my own horn, I've done this so often and so many times. This leather is going to be wet for the entire time that it takes me to do this. And I know it because I've done it like a zillion times. So, okay, we're starting to see some changes here. Little marks can be put in, beveled areas, muscle shadings. And when you make a little mark on the leather, one of the nice things about this modeling tool is that you can smooth those marks out again if you wish. You can add to them. You can almost erase with it. You can blend. You can fold. You can just do all kinds of happy little stuff. Something that you thought might have been a mistake really probably now looks kind of okay. As far as back beveling goes, I saw something about that a minute ago. Yes, we're going to do that, but not now.
We had somebody ask about the darkness in the burnishing. So the wetter the leather, the darker it will be when you bevel it. So like these, these are really dark.
No.
Because you bevel deeply.
The burnish really has to do, the moisture content's important, yes, but the burnish really has to do with the leather. Mm-hmm. If you use a piece of import leather, which is fine, it typically starts out as a whiter piece of leather. It might appear to be more clean. And you'll get perhaps a more, I don't know, more definitive burnish, if you will. I'm not even sure if that's the right word to use, but I don't particularly care for that. So I don't know how obvious it is up to this point, but these harsh bevel marks that I made are now not so harsh. And they just look better.
I feel like you're giving that horse a facial.
Well, you are. Kind of, sort of. And again, you've got to go over every single square millimeter.
Because you're giving it texture.
Well, it does get texture. And it would really help in this particular instance if you knew what a horse looked like. I kind of lack in that regard, so I have to sort of look at the picture because...
You don't spend a lot of time with horses?
Well, this is about as close as I get. I like horses, but, you know...
Isn't there like a place with horses that's like right down the road from where you live? I feel like there's a ranch there.
Yeah, there was... Of all things, that's really funny. There was a place called the Springfield Polo Club.
That's what it was.
Springfield, Missouri, Ozark to be more exact, a polo club. I even saw them out there playing polo once.
Well, I would hope they would do it every once in a while.
Oh, no, they don't.
Riding around on their horses. Marco!
They are closed now.
Oh.
No more polo, no more happy little horse. They used to get out there in their really nice English riding gear, and I think they gave riding lessons and...
Yeah, Becky was going to buy a horse, wasn't she?
Not, well, married to me. Like, gee, maybe you should stay away from her. Terribly. Anyway.
Oh, I'll keep my ideas to myself.
So look at your picture and see what lines are there that you could kind of make. And don't be afraid to put a little bit of pressure on this guy because he needs it.
He needs some pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really starting to come to life.
Well, I hope so. That was the sort of the intent. And we're going to do some things that will hopefully make it look even better as we go along. Another thing too, and I forgot to mention this, is make sure your fingernails are semi-trimmed, because if they're not, you will have happy little fingernail marks all over this dumb thing. You don't want that. When you use the modeling tool to go over and smooth out that beveling halo that you get, try and go in follow the contours of whatever it is that you're changing. In this case, horses have hair, so I'm trying to sort of kind of follow the line of the direction that hair might be going.
Like if that were its mane, what would it do?
Put the mane's on the other side.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah, that's true.
You do got forelock up there, though.
Yeah, I'm going to fix that. But I want to just get the main stuff out of the way here first. The main stuff. I'm not going to go through and make this an art quality.
No art for you guys today.
So we're going to put some hair in this forelock thingy. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, forelock. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, he's got that's the hair that the horse has hanging down over his head.
If you had a hair blade tool, would you use that, or is that not varied enough?
I don't ever use a hair blade tool.
Never uses a hair blade tool.
I just don't like them.
Okay.
They have it, and I shouldn't say that. They have a time and place. There is certain times when I guess I would actually use a hair blade tool. But it would be on a larger animal like a bear or a buffalo or something like that. When I wanted to go back and add detail to it, because a hair blade is so symmetrical.
Right.
And you need to be sort of asymmetrical when you're creating hair or fur on an animal. Now, I'm even going along and kind of rounding off some of these edges here that I don't need to, but I'm going to do it anyway because it just kind of helps. And the more little things you can do, the better. It's the details that really have a tendency to make it right. So we're going to put hair in his little ears. I'm trying to avoid saying happy too much.
I don't think you said it once.
Well, yeah, I have, but I'm glad I've succeeded thus far. And we've already gone over those ears pretty much with the beveler, the modeling tool. Okay, let's see. We have got a few little issues to work on, but not much. And actually, some of the things we're going to do as we go along are going to make it even hopefully better. I normally would take a large round cedar that's approximately the shape of the eyeball, and I just kind of press it down in there, not very hard, just to give it a little dimension, a little idea that this guy's got a round eye inside that socket. But you can do that with the modeling tool, and I just did. I don't know how visible that's going to be, but we're going to make it visible here in a little bit. So, okay. Can we do anything else to this? Yes, we could. Do we need to do anything else to this? Not really.
I feel like this is something you can spend as much time as you would like on.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just better to say stop. Okay, so we've got that far. Now we need to finish up his little forelock thingy. And I'm looking for a 902, which is a sliver of a tool. And we're just going to give this a little definition. Okay.
Hey, Kevin, when you were talking about that eyeball and you were you talking the whole eyeball to push down or just like a pupil area?
Just around the eyeball. Leave the eyeball up. The reason I like to take a cedar is so that I can set it down inside the eye socket a little bit and not have it looking like a bubble.
Yeah.
But you can do that with a modeling tool, especially if you have a nice pointy one, which I don't have. Okay, so we've done that. This is what we have so far. Can you see?
Yes.
It's not perfect, but it's okay. At this time, you want to give it a final look, see if there's any other areas that you want to touch up with the modeler. Not that you can't go back, because you can. You can always go back. Right up until the time you put a finish on it. And I have even committed that sin and done that as well.
Tried to go back after you put a finish on it.
Oh, it's amazing what you can do with a piece of leather if you just set your mind to it. It's, you know, as leather workers, I think we kind of get locked in to feeling that we have to do certain things in a certain way, and you really don't. You have to do things in a way that works. So I'm going to take this matting tool. It's an F900. I'm going to go around this. I'm going to go around it kind of hard. You could do this with a beveler, and that would be your back beveling. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use this matting tool. And it leaves a terrible halo around, which you can reduce just by normal matting tool use. You can't get rid of it probably. Not entirely, but you can reduce it quite a bit.
You're just really laying that leather down.
Well, it really does, yeah, and it makes a difference. Everything you do makes a pretty good difference. I have to have a tool that fits inside that little space. So I use the same matting tool, just smaller. And I want to get in there and get that. And go back to the big one. And we'll just cover a little bit of ground out there. And today there's so many really neat background tools. Man, you can use any background tool that you want and you can just get some really cool looking effects. Now you're starting to see the burnish.
Yeah, it's pretty dark.
Yeah, this is the burnish that I like. And you probably noticed there's some real rough marks around that forelock. So this is what's going to kind of take them down and give it the impression of real hair. Sort of, kind of. Now, you probably notice that the leather is curling up a little bit. That's okay. If you don't want it to curl up, put masking tape on the back before you start. But I did not do that for a reason, which I will get to in just a minute. So right now I just want to make sure I keep achieving this depth. Boy, the leather has just the right amount of water in it right now to do exactly what we're doing. So that's one thing to take note of. And take note of that when you're doing any kind of leather work or tooling. Because if you can remember, get a feel for the scent, the moisture content, that's going to be such a huge deal for you. That's just what, there's a lot of success tied up with moisture content. And if you get a feel for that, it boosts your confidence. And that's always good. I mean, when you feel good about something, you ought to do better at it. And I'll tell you something. On this horse, I've carved 2 of these horses in the last 10 years. This is one I did the other day just to make sure I could still do it. And this is the second one. So once you learn some of those basic things, you really get them in your head. Yeah, it's just kind of like riding a bike. Sort of, kind of. Okay. Now let's see. Take a look at your picture again. Look at areas that are supposed to be darker. Look at areas that aren't. Look at areas that are supposed to be dented in. Now, this picture that I'm looking at was dyed in a monochromatic manner, which means you're using one dye with just various shades of that dye. So it's real easy, but again, your second effort is going to be a lot better than your first, because usually you get too much dye on a brush. As far as telling whether or not your leather is too wet, believe me, you can tell. When it's too dry, you will know, because it just stops working like it should. If it's too wet, it stays gray for too long. Hopefully you can notice from this picture, we put it on the camera again, the leather almost looks dry.
Yeah.
there's maybe a few damp spots, but it almost looks dry.
But it's not.
But it is not. It's still cool to the touch. Leather should be cool to the touch when it's got the proper moisture in it. Duck.
Just scoot over this way again. So now you're spraying the back,
I'm spraying the back
just lightly.
very lightly because the leather's already wet. To push the leather up like I'm going to do, it needs to be a little wet, but not soaked. It's the same way. If your leather gets too dry when you're working on it, on the surface, you can re-wet it. But just remember, there's already moisture in the leather. So all you need to do is add a little. Usually this is where people make a mistake and they go wrong and they add too much water and then things just go downhill from there. So your moisture content is pretty darn critical. As far as raising this horsey up from the backside, it's pretty simple, but there's all kinds of ways to do it. You look at the old Al Stone books, he says, carve one of these things and then cut it out and use it as a plug and glue it on the back and bevel around it. And you can do all that. I have done that a number of times and it works. You can use a wooden plug. You can push it up from the back and you can fill it with leather dust and glue. That works. To me, it's a mess. I've embossed, I don't know how many pictures. I would hate to count them. And you can emboss them just by pushing them up from the backside and they stay. It works. So I'm going to just...
Leather molds. Oh, Tony.
So I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Can you see that at all?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to do it with a view to the camera. You can see, boy, that leather is just pushing this up. Also, I picked this leather for a reason. Or actually, Liz picked it, but I okayed it. Because one piece had a little more flank to it, if you will.
It wasn't as firm?
It had the fiber, it wasn't flank, that was a wrong term.
Okay.
Fibers were looser.
Yeah.
And I could see that. So I said, this is the one that I'm going to push up from the back and see if we can't just get a little bit of detail with. Now, that's starting to look better.
Look at that.
That's pretty cool, actually. But guess what? When you start pushing leather up like that, what happens? You start to lose some detail. You don't lose a lot, but you lose some. So I'm going to push that leather down. Not really hard. Push it down a little bit. Use my fingers. In case I've raised it a little too high, I can push it down a little bit while it's still wet.
Man, that just
Still
looks
wet.
so cool already.
Yeah, and you can... That just is cool. It always amazes me, the little things, just the little burnish line that gives it right there. It just adds so much to the overall image, and you may have to work it along there a little bit slow. And you can go right back in. You can push the leather down. Don't be afraid to change your grip on the tools because you're going to need to do that. You can add texture if you wish. You can push leather down in areas if you wish. You can retexturize. Is that a word?
Sure.
Retexturize. Okay.
I like it.
Yeah, that sounds kind of cool to me. Little details on the eyeball. Pay attention to those the best that you can. Try not to screw it up because the eyeball is the easiest area to make a faux pas, so to speak. The biggest difficulty in figure carving comes in trying to make the eyeball look good. A lot of people just think you can take a round cedar and go bonk and you get an eye, but it doesn't work like that. Okay.
I wonder if horses' pupils are like goats. Or a rectangle and even a circle.
Okay.
You could Google it. I think.
There. Now let's see. Is that good enough?
Kevin, are you going to talk about the coloring process and how to do the monochromatic look?
I'm actually going to do it.
Okay.
How much time do we have?
We got as much time as you want.
Okay. Well,
20, 30 minutes.
in that case, we should color this a little bit. We're not going to color it very much, but we're going to make it look kind of good.
Just kind of good.
Yeah, kind of good. I have the most, I don't even want to show people this.
I got it out of the spray booth, guys.
I asked for a bottle of dark brown regular dye. This is what I get. Can you see this? Probably not,
it's
because
well
it's camouflage. There's dye all over it. It's cruddy and nasty. And as soon as I get any of it on my fingers,
I brought you gloves.
it's gonna go right on the. Okay, so here's what you do.
Arm sleeve.
Okay.
Is there dye in there?
Yeah.
There is dye in there.
Yeah, there's dye. I mean, I double checked that part.
Have we got a little piece of leather that I can use?
I got a big piece of leather.
I brought you some leather too.
Oh,
Okay.
here, I'm gonna cut a piece off with my knife.
I'm moving the tea so we don't knock it over.
Oh, thank you.
Gotta be careful with that tea. I'm gonna zoom this top camera back in.
Yeah.
You get refueled.
Oh, gosh.
Those of you that don't know, unsweet tea is Kevin's.
Nectar of the gods.
Yeah.
All right. I dipped this brush in my dye. And I'm going to wipe the excess off to a large degree on this little piece of leather. I didn't have too much dye on the brush to start with, but I have a lot less now. Let's see, I'll try and get it to where everybody can.
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. That doesn't look like dark brown to me, but I'm going to take your word for it.
I brought that medium brown in too that hasn't been opened, so it should definitely be medium brown if you are struggling. That does kind of look orangey, doesn't it?
Yeah. Here, let's just do this. Let's see if that's any better. Oh, heavens, my gosh, yes.
Okay. I don't know what the shop is doing. Maybe that's extremely thin down.
They mixed something with it, but that's okay. So, on your picture, if you have a picture to follow, if you're fortunate enough, you can see that the nostril and the eye. Gosh, this is all twisted around backwards.
We're on this camera right here.
Okay, well, the nostril and the eye are the darkest areas. So those are the safest areas for you to apply dye to. So I'm going to take this very, very dry brush and touch it in here. God, this is so weirdly colored.
It is pretty orange, isn't it?
It's really orange, but you know, it's going to work.
Okay. We'll have an orange horse.
Well, we're going to do something to it that, no, we're not going to have an orange horse.
We're not going to
do something to it that makes it look even better. I'm going to try this one more time. And you want to make sure you get all the dye off of that sponge that you want off. And I'll tell you a secret. You want more dye off of that brush than you think you do. And we're going to touch.
Because the leather's going to soak it right up.
Oh, and it'll bleed right into it. So don't be afraid to stop. Get rid of some more dye. Good enough. I am going to, woo, got a bunch on that time. Like I say, don't be afraid. Get the dye off of there. Because if you got too much, it's really, you're going to have to start finagling things and being creative to fix it. So I'm going to go inside the ears a little bit here. And from the picture, you'd be able to tell that at the back of the ear, the back of the inside of the ear, this is a trick question. Will it be darker or lighter? Well, the answer is at the back of the inside of the ear, it's going to be darker. So that's where you're safest to start first. And we're just going to darken that up a little bit. You can also fill in places that you had beveled. They have that funny look. And your dye will help that. And there's other areas. Now, I'm not going to go do the whole horse in this manner because I really like to be careful when I'm doing this, and I don't want to take all the time that it takes to be super careful. So I'm going to show you the easy way to make it look kind of nice. Now this eyeball is kind of interesting. Basically, we're just going to touch the eyeball. Try not to get dye anywhere except exactly where you want it. And it pays to use a good brush. This one has one little hair sticking off of it that you guys can't see.
I know, I feel like you should trim that off.
Yeah, well, I'm being really careful.
Okay.
Not to let that hair near.
It's got a straight hair.
So I did look at it, and horses' eye pupils are a little rectangular.
Well, don't look at this one then.
Okay. Close your eyes, everybody.
It takes such a small amount
Look at that mouth come to life.
of dye to make a huge difference, just huge. And I hate to even start this, but I guess I will because I did.
Just a little definition.
Yeah, but you can see from this how little dye you want to do or add to it. You want to work away from the darkness. You want to work toward the light. Ideally, what you want to do is start with the darkest dye that you want to use, like you'd start with a chocolate, and then go to perhaps a dark or a medium brown, and then to a light brown. Whatever you want to do, that will take care of that. I've done pretty much enough to make me happy here. And you can kind of see. Okay. Now let's do what I should do and put the lid on the dumb bottle.
Are you done with dice?
I am.
Okay.
I get the wrong lid on the wrong bottle.
Well, so because this one was sealed and this one had an airbrush lid on it.
Okay.
So did weird things.
Let's see. Oh, I wanted to do we have there's a horse.
There's the little gun horses.
Let me see if there's enough water left in this leather to do something here. Another horse? There's a horse.
This is, so Kevin has this little pouch for whenever we do our little tooled wallets that we put out on retail with the happy little deers and the happy little bass and
Look at
the
that.
happy little horses. So
There's enough water in this. To do this. I think. We'll put a little cabin over here. Oh boy, I kind of bounced him. But he's gonna work. Then we're gonna put, let's see, this thing here. We will use a fence. Then we will use trees. Now we have a lovely little forest. We have a fence. And if you're gonna have a fence, you gotta have grass. Gotta be really careful when you stamp the grass. You want to screw up. And for a little bit of a contrast, maybe you could put, ooh, missing a tool.
Uh-oh.
No, we're not. There it is.
Okay.
We'll put some weeds. Horses love weeds. Okay, that's done enough for the minute. I probably should have put a mountain or some little something over there, but I'm done. I'm not going to. Now we're going to make it. I want to make one last go around here with my
What are you looking for?
my matting tool. There it is. If you want this to stick down, now's the time. I used to mount these on either a piece of wood or whatever, and you can put contact cement on there around the back side of your design because you can see it, at least to some degree. You know where to put the glue. Then you go around and get your final, as much as you want this to be down in certain areas, this is the time. Okay, so I'm pretty okay with that, sort of. That's enough of that. I am going to take a product called Easy Glow. Sponge, water, all that stuff.
Got water, sponge.
That's hard as a carp.
Well, I'm assuming that's the one you used the other day.
Probably why. Okay.
How hard are carps?
Well, you got it. They're pretty darn hard, especially if they've been outside the water for a few days.
They're probably a lot harder than outside the water.
This is called Easy Glow. If you're really old, this stuff used to be called Leather Glow. Now it's called Easy Glow.
We're just gonna pour them right on. Yeehaw! We didn't put any sealer on this leather first.
Nah.
This looks pretty kid friendly.
Yeah, looks Kevin friendly.
This is
Like I said.
this is the stuff we use in how to be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to teach a kid how to get a really nice effect on his leather,
Just if he can pour liquid, he's good to go.
yeah, and he gets to play in it, you know, and it's kind of fun. I mean, you get to smush things around a little bit. If you want to, hey, you can just wipe it off, and you can put it on with a sponge. It's okay. No law. The Easy Glow police are not going to come and get you. I don't think I've ever been bothered.
Is it like Beveling's highlighter, or what's the difference between?
It is very much like highlighter, except weaker.
Okay.
So this stuff you can almost totally wipe off. Just almost totally. You can almost wipe every single bit of it off. You need some water. You need to clean. Ouch. Keep your sponge clean.
I do have fresh water too.
That's okay.
Okay.
You can take it off your horse to the extent that you wish. The only reason I really put it on there is because it has a tendency to accent the muscles and the places that you want to have a little bit of an accent.
I feel like you're just scrubbing that piece of leather.
Yeah, you can really kind of, this is neat stuff. And I didn't do a very good job on that cabin when I hit it. But we're going to just take a little bit on my finger, lay it right there on that cabin. And that's one of the nice things about this is you can let it dry to the extent that you wish to, and that makes it allows more of that stuff to tend to stick down into the cuts and the stamped areas and cracks. This accents swivel knife cuts really well, and I think we're going to call this good here in just a minute. I'm going to soak up a little bit of that excess here on my cabin. I want my cabin to have a little more definition, and it will when it's dry. Again, just get it the way you want it. Get it to however you're going to be happy with. Highlighter is neat. I like highlighter a lot. It's probably one of my favorite things. And if I wanted to, I could put highlighter right over the top of this Easy Glow. The thing about highlighter is it doesn't quite come off quite as easy as Easy Glow. So if you want to stamp a key fob or a coaster, or if you want little Johnny or nephew Johnny and niece Susie to stamp a coaster, they can do that, and they can put this stuff on there and go wash their hands, and it comes off. Mm-hmm. Highlighter is not quite so friendly, but it works, and it gives you a darker contrast.
The squirty bottle is your highlighter if you would like to use them.
Well, I could, but no, I think I'm good.
Okay.
I think I'm good. And again, it'll stay tacky for a while. And I think I've got enough. Is that able to be seen, or do I need to hold it up?
Nope.
I can't even see it. Hey, that looks okay. And one other thing, if I were doing this and if I really wanted it to be super nice, I probably would do something with the background. Mm-hmm. I would either mat it out completely. Maybe I'd put some clouds up here, I don't know, or I'd use one of those crazy matting tools with all the neat designs in them, and I'd go around this and do that. But today we're just focusing on the horse. If you want to get creative, you can take just the smallest, tiniest amount of reduced white paint and touch towards the back of the eyeball. That gives you what's called a catch light and really makes things pop there on the horse. As far as the leather weight goes, this was a piece of what, 6 to 7, I'm thinking?
I think 6 to 7.
And
yeah.
8 to 9, 9 to 10 works just glorious. But this is what we had, so this is what we used. And that's pretty much...
Is that it? Is that it?
I think we've got it.
So for those of you that are looking at the Easy Glow, the item number on that is 34-220801. 34-220801 on the Easy Glow.
So take anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, now you know how to carve a horse.
There you go. It's Kevin at springfieldleather.com. He answers lots of emails. He would love to answer yours.
I do answer lots of emails. Do we have anything crazy and weird that we wanted to show people today? Or
I forgot about your lambskins. Are they ready?
Yeah.
Guys, we have some fun new lambskins. I was supposed to bring them in, and I prepared all of these lovely things for Kevin to do his tooling, and I completely spaced the lambskins. But check them out. They should be headed to the website really soon or already there.
well, we bought
Lamb and goat.
yeah,
Yeah, we've got some new line, like some new stock leathers.
this tannery from Turkey, of all places, decided to send some folks to see us, and they specialize in lambskin. So we didn't really have a strong lambskin line, a garment lambskin line, and we thought we would just add one. So that's going to be new. And they produce a cheetah print that is just crazy cool.
It's pretty fun.
It's
pretty
the
fun.
right print, it's the right color, and we're going to have them do a leopard print in that as well.
In that same color.
So when we finally, I hate to open my mouth and say this, but when we finally do get the new catalog out, it's going to be in there, and that just prevent all the questions. We're not sure it's the release date, but we are working feverishly. Are we not? Feverishly?
We are all
Chad looks like
fevered.
he's sweating
He's-
like crazy.
Sweating over there right now as we talk, and we will have that out, but it's just going to be a while. The COVID thing is crazy. We put out a COVID update number 2 just the other day, and I think Chad is getting ready to have that available for the shippers to include with orders that go out. We really try hard to keep our customers informed of what's going on because it's challenging times. It's just challenging times. The supply chain, for whatever it's worth in this country and around the world, the supply chain is broken. Period. Broken. Not just wounded, busted. And it is a problem because the world is tied together in ways that most people don't really think about too much.
Pretty small these days.
Yeah, and so it's made for raw material shortages for all manufacturers, and boy, it's just crazy the things that you can't get, and then all of a sudden you can get them, and then you can't get them, and when you do, they cost 2 times more than normal. Freight has gone up, tripled. I don't know if I've told anybody, I might as well say it online. I went to buy a board the other day. I had to repair a place in a flower garden of mine. I needed a 2 by 12
Did you take out a loan?
by 8 foot treated plank. 2 by 12 by 8 foot. $42.
Ooh.
$42 for a stupid board.
Did you buy it?
Yes. I had to have the board. I needed
He
it,
had to have it,
but that's
but he wasn't happy about it.
that's kind of what's happening, and it's just a crazy time. So anyway, read the update if you get one. Other than that, happy horsies, and I'm done.
We're done.
Kevin, do you even know what we did yesterday
I thought I
for
was
30 minutes?
Oh yeah.
What did you do for 30 minutes here? How am I supposed to know?
Well, because we did it here.
I for those of you that don't know, I can be hard to find here.
That's true.
That is
He hides.
What did you do?
Liz.
So yesterday, Rusty and I had a ball of an afternoon, and we sold you guys some leather. It was the first time that we've done this in a while, since the calf, I think. So it was the first time since the calf. But we just did kind of a semi-impromptu live stream QVC video and sold you guys some leather.
Wow.
Yeah, so we sold, I think it ended up being, what, 15 pieces. We had some hippo. We did some
Oh, you sold
crust,
exotics. Oh,
and then just some oil
Sold
tans.
oil tans.
Yep, so we pulled some oil tans off of some $50 sides and some things. So we really, for those of you, we're going to try to do that a little bit more frequently, maybe as
Yeah,
often as once a month or more frequently if you guys are into that.
you know, just to give you guys some insight out there, I end up being one of the people that gets to process a lot of the leather that comes in before it ends up going either on the retail floor or out to the mail
He sees
order
pretty much all of it.
gathering area. I get to touch most of it. And boy, when we get in, if we get in 10,000 feet of oil tans, for instance, sometimes we go through that pallet and my gosh, you'll find 6 or 7 sides that should be $6 or $7 a foot. They're just so exquisite. And I hate to sell them. So we set them aside, and then reality hits, and then we have to sell them. But boy, when they come up with deals like that, you'll probably do all right.
Yeah.
Are you saying you're a hoarder?
You know, that's a hard question. I am not a hoarder, but when it comes to leather and rocks, I've really got this problem. And I guess I should just admit it. I have a problem
You have a problem.
with leather. And
He likes leather and rocks. He just really likes them. He finds cool ones. And he's like, guys, isn't this cool? And he puts it over here for a while, and then he moves it around over here.
I've still got a
Anyways.
piece of shark long enough to make a belt on my desk, and I have a piece of elephant on my desk that's long enough to make the coolest belt, and it's really pretty. And no, I'm not going to sell it, so don't ask.
Don't ask.
I need to go to lunch.
We're hungry. All right. Well, guys, keep an eye out for those specials. We'll be trying to maybe give you a little bit more time on those live stream specials. Rusty and I will get in here and we'll sell some leather. But then otherwise, we will see you next week, and it will be me and Andrew and Skylar this time, and we're going to be doing some Renaissance-y style products.
The
next
A
week.
team is back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no Diddy yet. He's
Oh.
still in Colorado. But that's fine.
So it might be the C squad.
That's what we are. No, the C squad will be in here.
Especially when it comes to setting snaps. Andrew.
Poor Andrew. Anyway,
F3.
we'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.